Some sea. Story time with Trailbot. What's going on? Oh, Journey to the Center of the Earth, Part 38. Oh, we in Moab again. Moab, if you will. And we're gonna just do a little slow roll through town here and then jump on up into the Dead Horse Point State Park area with a little side trip over into the Canyonlands viewpoint. Okay, now this story. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. When we left this thing off, you know what? Everything just kind of went crazy there. They discovered they didn't get anywhere, so the professor had told Hans to rebuild the raft, and we're getting back on this sucker, and it looks like they're going to be getting back on it. And Harry, he just can't believe it. He goes, I can't believe I can't convince anybody of how bad of an idea this is. And it appeared to me that the Icelander had set aside all personal will and identity. So it looked like he couldn't get anybody to believe him, so they were going to have to get back on. He was going to have to get back on that dang raft and go float around that inland sea some more. All right, so here we go. I could hope for nothing from one so infatuated with and devoted to his master. All I could do, therefore, was to swim with the stream. In a mood of stolid and sullen resignation, I was about to take my accustomed place on the raft when my uncle placed his hand upon my shoulder. "There is no hurry, my boy," he said. "We shall not start until tomorrow." I looked, the picture of resignation to the dire will of fate. "Under the circumstances," he said, "I ought to neglect no precautions, as fate has cast upon me these shores. I shall not leave without having completely examined them." In order to understand this remark, I must explain that, though we had been driven back to the northern shore, we had landed at a very different spot from that which had been our starting point. Port Gretchen must, we calculated, be very much to the westward. Nothing, therefore, was more natural and reasonable than that we should reconnoiter this new shore upon which we had so unexpectedly landed. "Let us go on a journey of discovery," I cried, and leaving Hans to his important operation, we started our expedition. The distance between the foreshore at high water and the foot of the rocks was considerable. It would take about half an hour's walking to get from one to the other. As we trudged along, our feet crushed innumerable shells of every shape and size, once the dwelling place of animals of every period of creation. Let's take a quick look. Oh, right. Boy, oh boy. You know, in the wintertime, that Moab area, if you can get up there in the off season, it's really one of the better seasons. You got a little bit of space. There's not nearly as many people, and the trails are not as populated. You go there during the spring and fall, and I guess another good time to go would be the middle of summer if you were some kind of a lizard and you could handle that kind of heat, but I can't. But yeah, in those busy times, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, it's not even worth trying. All right, back to the story. Let's get to it. I think they got a few more a few more resorts and places to stay now, probably places to go and eat is most likely of it. No places for the workers to live, I'll tell you that much. Okay. I particularly noticed that some enormous shells, carapaces, turtles, and tortoise species, the diameter of which extended 15 feet, they had, in past ages, belonged to these gigantic, oh boy, glyptodons of the Pleistocene period. Boy, we're gonna struggle through this one, I can tell. Of which the modern turtle is but a minute specimen. In addition, the whole soil was covered with a vast quantity of stony relics, having the appearance of flints worn by the action of the waves, and lying in successive layers, one above the other. I came to the conclusion that in past ages the sea must have covered the whole district. Upon the scattered rocks, now laying far beyond its reach, the mighty waves of ages had left evident marks of their passage. Oh yeah, okay, we jumped up there to the road over at going into the Dead Horse Point State Park, and she's big and wide open up on the plateau up there. On reflection, this appeared to me partially to explain the existence of this remarkable ocean, 40 leagues below the surface of the Earth's crust. According to my new and perhaps fanciful theory, this liquid mass must be gradually lost in the deep bowels of the Earth. I had also no doubt that this mysterious sea was fed by infiltration of the ocean above through imperceptible fissures. Nevertheless, it was impossible not to admit that these fissures must now be nearly choked up. For if not, the cavern, or rather the immense and stupendous reservoir, would have been completely filled in a short space of time. Perhaps even this water, having to contend against the accumulated subterraneous fires of the interior of the earth, had become partially vaporized. Hence the explanation of those heavy clouds suspended over our heads, and the superabundant display of that electricity which occasioned such terrible storms in this deep and cavernous sea. This lucid explanation of the phenomena we had witnessed appeared to me quite satisfactory. However, great and mighty the marvels of nature may seem to us, they are always to be explained by physical reasons. Everything is subordinate to some great law of nature. Way to go, Harry. It now appeared clear that we were walking upon a kind of sedimentary soil, formed like all the soils of that period, so frequent on the surface of the globe, by the subsidence of the waters. The professor, who was now in his element, carefully examined every rocky fissure. Let him only find an opening, and it directly became important to him to examine its depth. For a whole mile we followed the windings of the Central Sea, when suddenly an important change took place in the aspect of the soil. It seemed to have been rudely cast up, convulsionized, as it were, by a violent upheaving of the lower strata. In many places, hollows here and hillocks there attested great dislocations at some other period of the terrestrial mass. We advanced with great difficulty over the broken masses of granite mixed with flint, quartz, and alluvial deposits, when a large field, more even than a field, a plain of bones, appeared suddenly before our eyes. It looked like an immense cemetery. Huh. Oh boy, let's take a look here. Let's take a look. Oh, look at that. That's a big old sky. All right. Bones appeared suddenly before our eyes. It looked like an immense cemetery, where generation after generation had mingled their mortal dust. Lofty barrows of early remains rose at intervals. They undulated away to the limits of the distant horizon and were lost in a thick brown fog. At that spot, some 3 square miles in extent, was accumulated the whole history of animal life. Scarcely one creature upon the comparatively modern soil of the upper inhabited world had there existed. Nevertheless, we were drawn forward by an all-absorbing and impatient curiosity. Our feet crushed with a dry and cracking sound the remains of those prehistoric fossils for which the museums of great cities quarrel, even when they obtain only rare and curious morsels. 1,000 such naturalists as Cuvier could not have sufficed to recompose the skeletons of the organic beings which lay in this magnificent osseous collection. Oh boy, let's see if we can just take a green alligator here for a second. There we go. That was good green alligator. I was utterly confounded. My uncle stood for some minutes with his arms raised on high toward the thick granite vault which served us for a sky. His mouth was wide open. His eyes sparkled wildly. Wildly? Yeah, wildly behind his spectacles, which he had fortunately saved. His head bobbed up and down from side to side, while his whole attitude and mien expressed unbounded astonishment. He stood in the presence of an endless, wondrous, and inexhaustibly rich collection of antediluvian monsters, piled up for his own private and peculiar satisfaction. Fancy, an enthusiastic lover of books, carried suddenly into the very midst of the famous Library of Alexandria, burned by the sacrilegious Omar, and which some miracle had restored to its pristine splendor. Such was something of the state of mind in which Uncle Hardwigg was now placed. For some time he stood thus, literally aghast at the magnitude of his discovery. But it was even a greater excitement when, darting wildly over this mass of organic dust, he caught up a naked skull and addressed me in a quivering voice. "Harry, my boy Harry, this is a human head." "A human head, Uncle?" I said, no less amazed and stupefied than himself. "Yes, nephew. Mr. Milne Edwards. Mr. D. Quatrefages. Why are you not here? Why am I? Professor Hardwigg." That's the end of the chapter. Oh boy, I'm telling you, things are starting to accelerate. We're getting near the end of this book, so things are starting to accelerate. All right, here we go. Chapter 35, Discovery upon Discovery. In order fully to understand the exclamation made by my uncle in his allusions to these illustrious and learned men, it will be necessary to enter into certain explanations in regard to a circumstance of the highest importance to paleontology or the science of fossil life, which had taken place a short time before our departure from the upper regions of the earth. On the 28th of March, 1863, some navigators under the direction of M. Bouchard de Parthez, oh boy, all right, oh boy, let's try that again, M. Bouchard de Parthez, I don't know, we'll leave it at that, were at work in the great quarries of the Moulin Quignon near Abbeville in the department of the Somme in France. Boy, I'm telling you, this is, oh boy, you guys are gonna have to just live with it because I ain't gonna do it. While at work, they unexpectedly came upon a human jawbone, buried 14 feet below the surface of the soil. It was the first fossil of the kind that had never been brought to the light of day. Near this unexpected human relic were found stone hatchets and carved flints, colored and clothed by time in one uniform brilliant tint of verdigris. The report of this extraordinary and unexpected discovery spread not only all over France, but over England and Germany. Many learned men belonging to the various scientific bodies, and noteworthy among others, Messrs. Milne Edwards and de Quantifarge, took the affair very much to heart, demonstrated the incontestable authenticity of the bone in question, and became, to use the phrase then recognized in England, the most ardent supporters of the jawbone question. To the eminent geologist of the United Kingdom, who looked upon the fact as certain, Messrs. Falconer Buck, Carpenter, and others were soon united, the learned men of Germany, and among those in the first rank, the most eager, the most enthusiastic, was my worthy uncle, Professor Hardwigg. I see we're at the campground. I think we're gonna just spool around here a little bit. And, oh yeah, I wanted to check out this truck camper thing, and I always thought, you know what, that truck camper thing's not such a bad idea. And then I started looking at, you know, how much they weigh and how much truck you'd actually need just to have, you know, a reasonable truck camper. And then there's the whole fact that you just can't get from the driving area into the house area, and that's it's one of the biggest advantages of having a motorhome type of thing. But yeah, just you know, it looked like, and then they started putting slide outs and everything. Well, you can't even get into the thing to use the bathroom with the slide outs in. So all of a sudden you're back in a van. Well, you may as well just buy a van. Okay, Professor Hardwigg, the authenticity of a human fossil of the Quaternary period seemed then to be incontestably demonstrated, and even to be admitted by the most skeptical. This system or theory, call it what you will, had, it is true, a bitter adversary in M. Élie de Beaumont, this learned man who holds such a high place in the scientific world. Holds that the soil of the Moulin Quignon. I should really try to figure that one out. Here, let me just see if I can go figure that one out. Okay, so my grade 8 French teacher is just, I'm telling you, she's squirming right now. Let's try this again. This Moulin Canyon, ha ha ha, does not belong to the diluvium, but to the much less ancient strata, and in accordance with Cuvier in this respect. He would by no means admit that the human species was contemporary with the animals of the Quaternary epoch. My worthy uncle, Professor Hardweg, in concert with the great majority of geologists, had held firm, had disputed, discussed, and finally, after considerable talking and writing, Mr. M. Ely de Beaumont had pretty well left alone in his opinions. We were familiar with all the details of this discussion, but were far from being aware then that since our departure the matter had entered upon a new phase. Other similar jawbones, though belonging to individuals of various types and various different natures, had been found in the movable gray sands of certain grottos in France, Switzerland, and Belgium, together with arms, utensils, tools, bones of children, of men in the prime of their life, and of old men. The existence of men in the Quaternary period became, therefore, more positive every day. But this was far from being all. New remains dug up from the Pliocene, or tertiary deposits, had enabled more far-seeing or audacious among learned men to assign even a far greater degree of antiquity to the human race. These remains, it is true, were not those of men, that is, were not the bones of men, but objects decidedly having served a human race, shin bones, thigh bones of fossil animals, regularly scooped out and in fact sculptured, bearing the unmistakable signs of human handiwork. By means of these wondrous and unexpected discoveries, man ascended endless centuries in the scale of time. He, in fact, preceded the mastodon, became the contemporary of the Elephas meridionalis, the southern elephant, acquired an antiquity of over 100,000 years since, that is, the date given by most eminent geologists to the Pliocene period of the Earth. Such was then the state of paleontologic science. Oof, boy. And what we moreover knew sufficed to explain our attitude before this great cemetery of the plains of the Hardwig Ocean. Oh. All right, so we at that viewpoint up here, and I think we probably wander around, take a few pictures. See, now you can see this is the middle of winter here, and well, I guess it's probably close to New Year's, so that's why it's a little bit busier. But it's so busy here that I don't even want to get out of the vehicle and go and walk around because, you know, it's just a lot of people. Not big on crowds. Okay, so yeah, there we go. I think we probably pull in for a little bit here and go take a few pictures somewhere. But yep, you can see it right away. Here's a little bit. Oh, no, you, no, me, no, you. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. How about I just stay home? Okay, let's get back to this story here. Let's get back to the story. Oh, it looks like we're just going to wander back over to the big old Ronnie. And I probably walk up in here later and take some pictures. When the light's a little bit better. All right, the Hardwig Ocean. It will now be easy to understand the professor's mingled astonishment and joy when, on advancing about 20 yards, he found himself in the presence of, I may say face to face with, a specimen of the human race actually belonging to the Quaternary period. I think I'm getting better at that word. It was indeed a human skull, perfectly recognizable, had a soil of very peculiar nature, like that of the cemetery of St. Michael at Bordeaux, preserved it during countless ages. This was the question I had asked myself, but which I was wholly unable to answer. But this head, with stretched and parchmentary skin, with the teeth whole, the hair abundant, was before our eyes as in life. I stood mute, almost paralyzed with wonder and awe before this dread apparition of another age. My uncle, who on almost every occasion was a great talker, remained for a time completely dumbfounded. He was too full of emotion for speech to be possible. After a while, however, he raised up the body to which the skull belonged. We stood it on end. It seemed to our excited imagination to look at us with its terrible hollow eyes. After some minutes of silence, the man was vanquished by the professor. Human instinct succumbed. Oh, I know what's going on. Yeah, I know exactly where we's at. Human instinct succumbed to scientific pride and exaltation. Professor Hardwood, carried away by his enthusiasm, forgot all the circumstances of our journey, the extraordinary position in which we were placed, the immense cavern which stretched far away over our heads. There can be no doubt that he thought himself at the institution addressing his attentive pupils, for he put on his most doctoral style, waved his hand, and began. Gentlemen, I have the honor on this auspicious occasion to present to you a man of the Quaternary period of our globe. Many learned men have denied his very existence, while other able persons, perhaps of even higher authority, have affirmed their belief in the reality of his life. If the St. Thomases of paleontology were present, they would reverentially touch him with their fingers and believe in his existence, thus acknowledging their obstinate heresy. I know that science should be careful in relation to all discoveries of this nature. I am not without having heard of the many Barnums and other quacks who have made a trade of such like pretended discoveries. I have, of course, heard of the discovery of the knee bones of Ajax, of the pretended finding of the body of Orestes by the, Spartiates, and the body of Asterius, 10 spans long, 15 feet, of which we read in Pausanias. So, okay, guys, just bear with me. I promise we'll get through it. We will get through it. I have read everything in relation to the skeleton of Trapani, discovered in the 14th century, and which many persons chose to regard as that of Polyphemus, and the history of the giant dug up during the 16th century in the environs of Palmyra. You are as well aware as I am, gentlemen, of the existence of the celebrated analysis made near Lucerne in 1577 of the great bones which the celebrated Dr. Felix Plater declared belonged to a giant about 19 feet high. I have devoured all the treatises of Cassian and all of those memoirs, pamphlets, speeches, replies, published in reference to the skeleton of, oh boy, Teutoburchus, king of Cimbri, the invader of Gaul, dug out of a gravel pit in Dauphiny in 1613. In the 18th century, I should have denied with Peter Campet the existence of the pre-Adamites of Sure. I have had in my hands the writing called Gigans. Okay, I thought this guy was supposed to be worse than me at being able to pronounce stuff, but all of a sudden he's just going. Here we go. Here my uncle was afflicted by the natural infirmity which prevented him from pronouncing difficult words in public. It was not exactly stuttering, but a strange sort of constitutional hesitation. The writing named Gingans, he repeated. He, however, could get no further. Gignateo, he's just like me. Man, I might be a Professor Hardwig after all. Oh, yeah, we at the, this is the little gift shop, and what the heck are we going to call it? I don't know what the hell we're going to call it. It's the Dead Horse Point State Park little museum and gift shop, and pay for camping and buy some water and all that kind of thing. Yeah, it's a really nice little spot, that's for sure. And yeah, you can see the parking lot's empty, which it is not. When it gets just like a month from now, it'll be so busy you'll be on top of each other. Impossible. The unfortunate word would not come out. There would have been great laughter in the institution had the mistake happened there. Giant tautology at last, exclaimed the Professor Hardwig, between two savage growls, having got over his difficulty and getting more and more excited. Yes, gentlemen, I am well acquainted with all these matters. All right, I can tell that we's at the end of it, so thank goodness for that. Thank goodness for that. I am just got a mouthful of broken up marbles today. All right, let's end this thing up. Sam-see. Oh, I know that. That's Lower Onion Creek Campground. Oh, beautiful little spot that fits the big rigs every now and again. There's a few spots at least that do. And, oh, yes, thank you, Rosie. Thank you, Rosie, for letting me have this moment. All right. Cheers, guys. Cheers out.